I've said it a few times already, but I literally feel like the best benefit that I get from making these videos is the interactions that I have with you guys in the comments. And one such interaction happened a few days ago, I think, or maybe that it happened last night, where I had a conversation with a fella who spent many years under the barbell, many more than me, and somebody that's kind of been intellectually, present and thought about things along with just performing the movement. So he was an active mind, an active body under the barbell for many years. He basically told me the importance of lower leg training should not be underestimated. Your calves are very important when it comes to stability, power, positioning, range of motion. And so I thought about it last night, had a couple of comments back and forth. He just also replied again, and I can see that this fella is very knowledgeable about this. So he basically recommended for me to do calf raises to facilitate strengthening my arch in my feet, which I know over the years with all the squatting, my arches have kind of fallen a little bit. I kind of had a few moments in the Squat It Everyday program sometime towards middle of last year where I gave calf raises a good go, and I actually had some positive effects from it. But I think ultimately what kind of steered me away from that was the journey of trying to address what was happening with the TFL. I kept kind of searching for that. So now that the TFL kind of has sorted itself out, or I sorted it out, it's really awesome that he's kind of reminded me and further, taught me the mechanics behind weak calves and weak arch. He basically said that if your arches fall down, your knee has more chance of falling in as well. And so that basically puts more pressure on the hip to externally rotate. So those are all these different cues that he spoke about. But what I found interesting today was I was convinced, and I decided to give it a go. So I did 3 sets of 20 with single legs just on the squat rack. And I retested my mobility. So I told you guys in the past that the first thing I do when I walk in for the training session is I just basically do a straight leg standing toe reach. And I basically make a mental mental mark where exactly my fingers are on the shin, and then I do things such as good mornings, and I retest and see where I'm at. So usually I like to be able to touch the floor. If I can't touch the floor, I know that I'm stiff. So the interesting thing was I did the calf raises and I felt better, and when I tested I was further down the calf, further down the shin. So that tells me that calf raises do something to the back of the leg. Now I've said this in the past, maybe some of you guys haven't heard me talk about this because there's a lot of new viewers now. The fascia that's basically engulfing all of your muscles is very important. So the fascia connects basically your toe, your foot, and all the way up to the base of skull, and even through the skull. There's this sheath of tissue called the fascia, and its function is basically to protect the structures underneath, muscles and ligaments and tendons and whatever. And they basically protect weak muscles. So the tightness that you feel when you're doing a hamstring stretch is most likely the fascia not giving and then putting pressure on the tissues underneath. So the only way to release that fascia is to get the fascia to kind of get convinced that the tissue underneath is strong. So things like rolling your foot on a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball basically activates the trigger points of the fascia and releases it ever so slightly. And then when you do your squat retest, you feel like you can get better purely just by rolling your feet. That's the effect of the fascia. There's a trigger that kind of releases some of that tissue and you feel a little bit better. So today I did calf raises, and that's exactly what happened. I pumped some blood into the posterior lower leg, and that kind of made the hamstring feel good because the fascia is communicating between the two sides. So today I basically did calf raises, and then I did good mornings, as you can see here. And so I went lower leg, upper leg, And by the time I got to the squat, I was feeling really, really mobile. I felt really in a good position. So it's really interesting to think about this stuff. It's another little element that I'm thinking about, and I'm definitely gonna keep this. I'm not sure how frequent I'm gonna do calf raises. The good mornings are definitely a staple now. The calf raises I want to implement as well. And also, if you think about, if you develop your calf muscle to be a bit stronger, a tight muscle is usually a weak muscle. So a strong muscle is usually a long muscle. So if you increase the quality of the structure in your calf, you'll potentially have more dorsiflexion, or you'll be able to squat more upright. You'll be able to shove your knee further past your toes and continue to have a flat foot on the ground. So there's a lot of things happening in a squat. I keep thinking, and I keep saying to you guys that in order for you to kind of get good at squatting motion, you need to address the posterior chain. Today I've basically tested out, even the lower leg needs attention, the posterior lower leg. So we're now doing calves, we're doing hamstrings, and we're doing glutes. And every single time I think about the posterior chain, there's a positive effect on the squat. Because the squat, we know, works out the quad. So for me to go do leg extensions makes no sense, but for me to do good mornings makes sense. And I've tested this out. That's how it feels. So I'm doing these tempo squats, which feel unbelievable, not just for the quads, but also for the core. It's a battle. You're holding your breath, and it feels great. Now I've added these calf raises, so that's basically my new template for the near future. I'm gonna walk in every single day, do some calf raises, do some good mornings, do some tempo squats, and then see at the later sets if I can, hit a number. All of these things that I've implemented feel really, really good, and that's exactly why I've said this many, many times. Squatting every day allows you to have an opportunity to come in every day and add to the thought process, add to your knowledge, and basically test things. Whereas if you were squatting once a week, it's a long time between drinks, right? Like, tomorrow I'm going to see how I feel because I did a couple of sets of calf raises. And you can always kind of tinker and play with different things until you basically work out exactly what is the recipe for you to kind of have success. I know for a fact, like, this is a sole thing in my mind. The good mornings are a keeper. They make me feel strong. They elongate the hamstring. And every time my hamstring is longer, I can squat better. And now I'm thinking about the calves, thanks to the fella. They mentioned it to me, and maybe you guys can see it in the comments of yesterday's video and have a read. Basically, the guy just breaks exactly down what the mechanics are and why it's important to have really strong lower legs, which is something that it's not a primary thought when you think about squatting calves. And I know a lot of people in the YouTube community have teased having calves and training calves, but when you think about the movement and the biomechanics, you need to have strong calves, so the calf muscle is longer, so you can get better dorsiflexion, and you can have better foot control, so your arches don't collapse, and place more tension onto your hips. Let's see this 180. This was a battle. Always feels harder than it looks. It's incredible. That thing felt really heavy. It felt like I was battling, but on camera it looks like a piece of cake. Anyway, after this 180, I decided to go back to good mornings, and I added some weight. Not a lot of weight, but those are 5 kilos on either side, so that's a 30 kilo barbell. And I was just telling my cameraman, it's so easy to unrack this thing after doing 180. It almost feels like a joke. But when you go into this position right out, there's a lot of pressure in the lower back and the hamstrings. So that little weight is a lot when there's a long lever. It's like if you get a spanner and you extend that handle by another meter, man, that thing is torquing that thing up really hard. So it's all about levers. So even though it looks like a piece of cake, the fact that there's a massive lever, there's a moment arm that's really long, makes the force at the lower back and at the glutes and the hamstrings much more. So I ended up doing another, I think I did 5 sets of 10 here, 5 sets of 20. So that's a big day of good mornings, introducing the calf raises as well. So I feel like I'm progressing really well. And basically, it's all about the posterior leg, basically posterior everything, from your neck all the way down. You need to address all of that to be a good squatter, not just the quads. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.